Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hot Takes, the show where we take, hot takes and embarrass ourselves should we lose them based on, what you all think. I'm Rob. He's Jerm. How are we doing today, my friend?
Doing good so far, so good. I definitely wanted to say thank you guys to everybody who has been, participating, voting on the polls on Twitter, YouTube, all over the place. I think it has been cool, some of the numbers we've been able to put up, and then, hearing your guys' thoughts on our takes, but then sharing your takes too. I think it's been fun so far.
Absolutely, and I think, already the viewership has at least exceeded my expectations for the first two episodes of a show, to be honest with you. And I hope that you guys are liking this. I can tell you that the more of you that watch and interact, the more time we will put into it and start maybe doing some other fun things. So keep that in the noggin as we're going on. But
getting manipulated.
Oh, yeah. Listen to us. Get the Hypnotoad out from Futurama. But we have a lot. Well, I guess we got to talk about first my punishment. So mine was the pentakill for Spica this past week. I was this close, guys. I just want you to know. I know you didn't vote for it, but Spica got that awesome triple in the TL game, and I was almost certain that he was going to get quad, and I would have been like, can we count that? Because that's still pretty rare.
He was already starting to type up the tweet. Like, Spica gets a triple, and he's like, and then he had to delete it real slowly, and then he
had no idea.
Queue up. He had to pop into lead.
I'm literally in I'm in Texas, right? I'm with 12 people who do not know League at all, basically. And they're just hearing me go Spica, you son of a bitch, go on. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, you don't understand. I have a bet. If I lose, I need this.
A lot riding on this one.
And so
it was cool to see, and Spica's been looking good so
he
far.
Looks solid.
It was more of the same for him, and they're gonna need a lot more of that same stuff from him going forward into the future. But it's fun to watch. Spica's back in a big way, and
he
it's
looks
definitely
great.
A big storyline. I'm sure we're gonna be talking about.
Oh, we will absolutely be getting to it. And for those of you who are wondering, my punishment was to play Yuumi in the jungle. By the way, I did this a couple hours ago. I did post it on Twitter. To give you a quick recap, I just went into a just a blind pick game because I knew that if I didn't, there'd be almost no way I'd get through the draft in any sense. So I waited and picked with 3 seconds left, like an asshole. And then within 4 minutes, our top laner had quit the game. And, the Rengar and I were having a good time, though, a little, cat-on-cat attack. We actually made the game last pretty long until everybody just started dancing at our red buff for a while. And first and probably only time I'll ever play Yuumi. That champion is extraordinarily boring. And Yuumi jungle was pretty rough. I basically died.
You gotta try everything once though. And I am looking out for maybe a little Yuumi jungle guide over on the TGH channel coming soon.
Yeah. I tried to look one up. There was one on MobaFire, and it basically was, do not play this with anybody other than your friends. So I did not listen to that, and it was a time. I will say that it was kind of funny. But
I'm glad we got the tweet out to the world. I'm glad we got the evidence and the proof, and hopefully people will enjoy that.
We follow through on the punishments that we give to each other. Okay,
two for two. Let's go.
I think get a couple people to watch the show too, because I kept typing in there. I was like, I had to do this on a bet because they were like telling me they were gonna report me. I was like, please don't.
Like checking my phone, like the views are going up. Like I posted it like 6 days ago. Now we're getting views.
Yeah, the one guy was in the. He went and watched, I guess, while we were all dancing, and he goes, "Oh, this guy actually did bet this." I was like, "Yes, I did."
You can't report me now.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, you can, but I was hoping Riot might see it and actually check it out and be like, "Okay, no, they're not. He's not actually trolling." But
spread the word.
Spread the word. Let them know. But it was an interesting week in the LCS too. There's a sort of tier list almost that I believe is starting to form pretty substantially almost. I think, we'll probably, like, at the halfway point, I would assume maybe talk about, like, actual power rankings. But I do want to talk about some of the top teams. I think the easiest place to start, and the one that I think you and I both will agree on, the 4-1 Evil Geniuses. Yes, they did drop a game to CLG. Yes, CLG is pretty strong. I do think Evil Geniuses at the end of the day were the better team that threw. I mean, if I remember correctly, they were at the Nexus essentially and threw that game. So that happens. But I don't know if you agree or not, but I do truly still feel like right now they are clearly the best team in the LCS, and I think a lot of it actually just has to do with everybody playing well. I don't think I was checking stats, by the way. Vulcan already, he's averaging almost 15 assists a game. He's almost at 75 assists like in 5 games. That's nuts.
And that's one of the things that's frustrating for me is, like Vulcan, last spring, they're calling him the king of spring because he won like the spring title like 2-3 years in a row, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he is so good during the LCS season, but then he's just been not so good internationally. This MSI, I don't think he was maybe as terrible, but still just like these moments that we don't see in the LCS, and it's maybe some of it's the step up in competition or whatever, but so many of it, even internationally, is like unforced errors, just him doing stuff that's so uncharacteristic. And it's like, yeah, this guy, he's a veteran. He should be one of their more consistent players when they go internationally. But yeah, it's super good to see him back in form. Evil Genius is definitely looking good. Any game that goes to multiple Elder Dragons, like there's always going to be some element of randomness in games like that. So, try not to read too much into it. CLG going toe-to-toe with them throughout the whole game was definitely impressive. But with the weeks that everybody had, EG's got to be number 1 right now.
Yeah, and I think that, this team, to me, now, and I said this on another show, I think if they're going to run into a bit of a speed bump, I think now would be that time. A longer game, their first loss, so they're going to lose maybe that momentum that they had, that confidence, maybe a little bit, not a lot. I mean, this team plays obviously with an immense amount of confidence, but for me, I am going to be intrigued to see how they do against TSM. Because it seems like TSM plays to the level of their competition currently, and we'll get into them a little bit more here later. But that will be a game that I think everybody will be watching, regardless of being a TSM fan or an EG fan. It's the first game to lead off the weekend on Saturday, and I am personally very interested. Taking out my TSM fandom, like I'm really truly intrigued to see what happens there, because EG just it feels like a trap game for EG. I'll be honest with you. It feels like a game where they walk in and think this is last split's TSM, and that's not the case. So this team, I think, we could go back and forth on how great they are, because they're playing. Bro, they're playing everything, and they don't care.
And they just have good players at every position. I think last split, there was maybe some talk of, like, is JoJo legit? And he wasn't always really, really great in spring. He had the good laning phases. He had some weird team fights and stuff. It really feels like JoJo got so much better from MSI. Like, I think that was a great experience for him. And winning the championship, the confidence, all that stuff. Like, JoJo is undoubtedly one of the best mid laners in the LCS now, which is crazy for his experience, age, all that stuff. I feel like he was kind of the big question mark for them, because the rest of the team is so good. They're just great players at every position, and if JoJo's great too, they're going to drop some games. It's best of ones. It's a regular season that really, even if you care about it, you don't really care about it. But yeah, they're just good.
I know, they're so fun. God, again, maybe we'll make an Evil Geniuses talk show. I know there is one out there. I believe it's the shout out to the Live Evil podcast. Bunch of good people over there. I think I'm actually gonna be on their show next week.
You're gonna take them down from the inside.
I'm coming for you, EG. No,
I got a new idea. I want to pitch this show to you guys. Actually,
I come into your show and I steals it. But yeah, I think the next, I want to get one more team out of the way, the other 4-1 team, TL. Brought it back against FlyQuest. Played a pretty solid game there. Their game against TSM, though. Now, again, I'm doing my best to be unbiased on this one. And I try my best. I feel like I'm normally pretty, like, unbiased when it comes to TSM stuff. I do my best to be. But, like, that game just didn't feel very close. Like, almost throughout, you know. Like, I even went back and looked. TSM had 1 goal disadvantage for about 35 seconds. And that's it. So one of the things I was a little worried about with TL, and I still kind of am, is it seems like most of their wins are going to be against bottom 4, bottom 5 teams right now. Outside of the C9 game, which that version of C9 with King and Destiny is clearly a bottom 5 team. So, you know, if you want to count that as team 11 or whatever, you know, like that's fine. But, you know, I mean, their wins are against Immortals, Dignitas, FlyQuest, and a bad C9 team, I believe. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And a loss against a TSM team that took 100 Thieves to, you know, to a pretty close game. And then obviously has lost to teams like Golden Guardians, so they're just whatever. Who knows what they actually mean. But
yeah,
for Team Liquid, there was a little worry for me because I want, not even just because I'm wearing their hat. I love this hat. Got it at their finals in Detroit, I believe. Thank you to good friend Nick. I'm just, I don't know. I'm concerned. I really am. I don't understand why this team isn't just rolling people.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very frustrating when watching it. It's very confusing. One thing that definitely confused me, you know, you're talking about how in the TSM game they never had a gold lead. Mark Z actually just posted a video about the TL stuff from this weekend and kind of who's to blame, all that stuff. And in that TSM game, like, yeah, I'm not surprised that they never had a gold lead because Mark Z kind of broke down the draft and stuff and was talking about how TSM had 3 pushing lanes, so, you know, they had really 3 lanes that were going to get advantage early in the game. Even though they had, like, the Olaf and the Gnar counter pick, Gnar's still range, he's still going to get some push.
Yeah.
And that allowed the Viego to go
Do
crazy in the
wanted.
early game, and Spica did that. He had an amazing game, but, yeah, Bwipo not being dominant. The TSM game, I think Huni outplayed him, and you know, Bwipo didn't do that good, but, hey, Huni, you know, he can be good. But the game against FlyQuest, bodied by Philip, like, that's not good. That's what is going on? Like, he didn't straight up get bodied by Philip, but he, you know, Philip made the big play, outplay on the tower dive where Bwipo dies with flash up, doesn't react to the flash. That was not good. And that should literally be one of the most lopsided matchups. Any lane, any matchup in the LCS, Bwipo against Philip. Like, there's really no excuse for that not to be a straight-up domination. And also, the one thing that I thought was very, very strange, Bwipo talks about in his interview, he's like, oh, we're going to play through bot lane. That's our whole thing. We decided this is our strategy. This is what's best for us. And then in the TSM game, they draft Bard. They give Bwipo the last pick counter pick, and then they draft a roaming support, and they've been playing a ton of Ezreal. Like, when I think we're going to play around bot lane, I'm thinking, you know, Callista. I'm thinking, oh, Fnatic, they're picking Draven. Like, not that they have to pick that stuff, but I'm not thinking, oh, we're going to pick Bard, and we're going to run into the jungle, run into the river, and then gank our own lane. Like, I don't get it. I think their strategies, their drafts are weird. But then also a lot of people are underperforming. Like, Hansama has not been a beast. Bwipo has not been a beast. Santorin got, you know, Santorin had a good game actually against TSM, I do think, but Spica had a better game. You know, he wasn't the better jungler in that matchup. And yeah, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on, but it's team and individual issues. It's not even like one thing you can put your finger on.
And I wonder if it's almost that this team is too passive as a whole. You know, Bwipo's the only one realistically out of the 5 of them that is known for being aggressive, right? And that's, you know, his time with Fnatic, like, you know, he could coin flip a little bit on occasion. It feels like they've almost just kind of toned that down with him. And the rest of this team, they kind of just sit back and let the other team dominate the pace of game at times. For a team that's as good as they are, they have to, I think, adapt and learn a little bit of a new strategy. And I'd almost be okay seeing them go all early game, you know, for the next couple games. Like, I'm confident that they're going to make, if they like in 9 times out of 10, they can honestly just sit there and scale for late and then just dominate everybody in a team fight. Yeah. Yeah, literally do nothing for 20 minutes and then just win the game. I mean, they can do that, but like, TSM are the best early game team right now in the LCS according to Oracle's Elixir. And if you watch their games, that seems to be the case. Those kinds of teams are
we don't talk about them.
We don't talk about them. We don't talk about Bruno, man. No, but like there's these early game like teams that can perform well in the early games are always going to give TL a problem. And we've seen this internationally too. When teams, go against Bjergsen-led teams or TL-led teams, they struggle because they don't adapt well and they don't like a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and the only instance of that not being true, and this is what I've never understood, was 2016 TSM was actually more of a up-tempo team. They were actually more of a fast-paced team. They were all about, like, the early game tower dives. They were getting so many first bloods. They were a TSM team that felt like they were everywhere. And then Doublelift kind of takes the next split off, and they kind of, never were able to really regain that magic that they had that one split. And, yeah, I just don't get it. I also don't want to overreact too much to just 1 week because I do understand what you're saying, and I know a lot of other people are going to say this as well, that, yeah, the first week TL played 3 bad teams. They beat 3 bad teams. But also, I think TL looked different in the first week. Like, the stat that actually got thrown out there that I think was interesting was of the 4 major regions in the first week, TL had the fastest game time in the world. Like, they were dominating these bad teams. And they played FlyQuest, on Sunday. It's not like FlyQuest isn't a bad team in the LCS right now. So I do think if TL was playing how they were in week 1, they probably would have dominated FlyQuest again. So I'm definitely concerned about this week. And if they look like this next week, that's a big problem. But if this was maybe just like, oh, hey, we went 3-0, we're the fastest team in the world, we're chilling, maybe a little ego, whatever going on, I could forgive it, but we'll see. I want to see if it's a trend or if it was just hey, we got punched in the mouth, now let's get back to business type thing.
That's what I'm hoping for too, because again, a lot of my hopes are truly about NA just being good. Right, like that is, I think, something you and I both share, is we want NA to go to an international event and play well. Like, if we can have a year in the next couple years where we have 2 teams in the semifinals, that would be unbelievable, right? Like, that to me would be like, all right, like, we have arrived, right? We don't even have to necessarily win, or if we can have a team that goes to a not MSI finals, to like a Worlds finals, right? Like, I don't even care if they lose. Like, sure, I'd be disappointed, but I'd be like, hey, we're here now. Like, this is us announcing ourselves.
Reason to care about the next, like, split even,
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it gives you even more hope at the next international event, but it makes the next LCS split even all the more interesting. And it's definitely something I don't think that people understand how important it is. Like, yeah, EU, they're doing so good, and the LEC and all this stuff. Like, EU, their international results have started to fall off a little bit. But also the money and the size of the United States and of North America, like, even if you like League of Legends at all, even if you're Europe and hate NA or whatever, you want the LCS to be relevant. You want them to be somewhat competitive. It's a big thing. And if the viewership and the hype and everything continues to fall off of the LCS, that's a big thing of what even got us to where we are in the first place. Obviously the East, but still, making it what it is in the West and in the world, NA's a big part of that. And yeah, I just want, something to be excited about.
We don't want it to be a PUBG where everything in the East is really good and NA barely plays. So,
because at some point that, like, people will get turned off to that. Like, it's already so hard. Like, yeah, you're like, oh, just watch the LCK or the LPL. Like, oh, just wake up at 3 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
Like, Tuesday through Saturday or whatever. Like,
or
that's
don't
not gonna happen.
check Twitter. Yeah, it's like, or don't check Twitter for hours, and it's like, well, for some of us, it's part of our job. So no, I can't do that.
Right. And eventually something else is going to pop up. Valorant's going to take over, or some other game that doesn't even exist yet is going to take over, or whatever. And I think that would hurt esports overall, because I do think one of the bigger problems with esports in general is that the games rotate out so much that we start over every 3 or 4 years. League of Legends has been one of the games that's been able to hold up some longevity, and
agreed.
There's some infrastructure and there's some foundation to this, and I don't want to see it fall, because we're like, we've come a long way. Maybe we still have a long way to go, but we're a heck of a lot closer, really, than anything else has ever been, I think. yeah, part of it is the results, the storylines, the interest. But in some ways, I do think the LCS is actually making some strides for the first time in maybe a couple years.
And I think we can translate that into, well, that's not the word I'm looking for. We're going into the next part where we're going to talk about CLG transition. God, coming back from vacation, brain's bad. CLG, man, what is this team? I mean, they go out and they lose, and I'm like, all right, like that's the CLG I was thinking they were going to be.
Yeah.
And then they go pound for pound, punch for punch, slobber knocker of a game with Evil Geniuses, which should have been a stomp.
Yeah.
What is going? I genuinely am asking. I don't understand this team. Like, please enlighten me, because Palafox is playing out of his mind. He has never, even when he was at the top of Academy, been able to play this well in lane and translate it well. Luger actually doesn't look like the best player by like this much of a margin, you know? I mean, it's actually a little closer. He's still the best player, but Poom looks really solid. Contracts remembered how to play League of Legends, you know, and Dokla looks like an LCS top laner. I mean,
definitely.
Their drafts have been great too. I mean, it's like, I'm going to be interested to see what this next patch does. I will say that. I want to know what their read is on, you know, on week 3's patch with Belveth coming in and everything like that. But dude, I mean, they might be legit. I mean, seriously, it's either that or we're getting another FlyQuest where FlyQuest like shocked the world, went like 5-1 or whatever, and then fell off a cliff.
Yeah, I'm still definitely in the bandwagon of them being a team that's going to teeter out, but I still think even if they finish 6th, 7th, I don't think it's out of the question for them to finish 7th. I guess at this point 6th is maybe more likely just with how many wins they already have. That would be an insane step up. You know, this is a team that finished 8th before that, and the last split they finished 10th. So if they're just kind of slowly ramping up, that's a great thing to see when this team was in such a terrible place last year, being in 10th place in LCS and 10th place in Academy, and then now totally revamping their lineup. Like almost nothing management or lineup wise is the same from 2021. And yeah, they're all of a sudden looking pretty interesting. Now, like I said, I don't think they're legit. I don't think they're a top 4 team. I don't think, anything like that. I do think the win against Evil Geniuses was impressive. And I kind of said that, how you said it was a very back and forth game. And I think that's a good sign. If they just won a game where they had some crazy draft diff or, some level 1 invade that went off the walls or something like, no, this was a game where they were, matching each other play for play, and that is exciting. But do I think CLG is going to be able to keep up this level of play throughout the whole year, throughout all the patches, like you say? No, I don't. I don't think this is Palafox. I don't know if this is even contracts. But it is cool to see, and it also shows that there is some talent in Academy. There is some talent in North America. Poom and Luger coming up together.
That's their new combo name.
That's so cool to see. Yeah, hey, whatever. That's so cool to see. And then it also, they have some legit prospects. Some of these guys are probably going to pan out. But it is just cool how they were able to build this roster that, Palafox at one time was a highly sought after prospect. Contracts was a huge name prospect. Luger and Poom were both big prospects. It shouldn't be totally shocking that they are, maybe we didn't expect it this soon, but it shouldn't be totally shocking that, hey, these guys they're decent players individually.
Well, and I think what's interesting is they're doing the opposite of what Evil Geniuses did in terms of age, right? They went for players who were big name prospects, like you said, but a lot of them are on the older side. Like, they're still one of the oldest teams in the LCS, if I remember correctly. And what's crazy about that to me is, first off, I want to give ThinkCard a lot of credit. This team seems to be like a well-oiled machine, and I think he has proven time and time again on the teams that he is on that he can do this. How long most of the time his teams do fall off, though, which is the question. But, like, credit where credit's due, and the new GM, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think that they're showing... They're kind of fighting the age argument, one that I've had many times. And it's actually funny. I'm in a dynasty league for League of Legends. We're trying to kind of figure that out and get that started. And, I was trying to trade somebody, Call Carsey for Nuke Duck because I don't really need Carsey right now, but Nuke Duck's been popping off. And the and the discussion was, at least from my perspective, was like Carsey's 20, Nuke Duck is 26, right? Like I should get a little bit more in the trade. The other person didn't feel that way, but my point is that like I think they might be rewriting how you build these teams. Maybe you do take those prospects that were top tier prospects, and maybe they just needed a little extra time to marinate and figure it out. That's what CLG seems to be to me. Like Palafox, while is he probably playing at his highest ceiling? Most likely, yes. Will he be able to continue that? Probably not, but who's to say he couldn't? Like I really genuinely am surprised, impressed, and I really thought they were going to pull an 0-2 this weekend, and I was just going to be like, yep, all right, see, there's CLG. That's the one we expected. Now they are, they're 4-1, right? They're 2 wins away from matching what they did last split after 2 weeks. Like, good for them. I think this team may go down as the one that saved the CLG franchise because I actually I don't know. Technically, this isn't illegal to say. Somebody asked me, what would you invest into? And I told them just go and buy CLG spot in the LCS. They don't seem to care about it. Just go buy from them. I'm sure Madison Square Garden will take a nice little paycheck for you to take the spot off their hands. That may not be the case anymore. Either that or it's just making the spot more attractive to sell. We're going to find out here in the next couple of years, but maybe it's really the opposite. But yeah, I mean, CLG fans should be really excited. It's the first time. They deserve it. Like, genuinely, I mean that. It's been tough for them, so really happy for them.
It's cool that that's kind of what I talked about in my videos too. Like CLG once upon a time was a big fan base. Like CLG, if they were able to find some way, and even if it's not these 5 guys, maybe they just finish out the rest of the season kind of strong, and they pick a couple of these guys to build around and sign some players. It doesn't have to be 5 inexperienced players or whatever. But yeah, talking about the age thing is something I definitely always go back and forth on. It's like, age has some merit, obviously. I don't think being younger is worse or anything. I'm not gonna be like, oh, that guy's,
oh man, I hate that this guy's 18 and great.
yeah. Oh, he's got so many years ahead of him. Like we'll wait on him or something. No, but I do think that the experience factor is such a bigger thing. Like if there's like a 22-year-old who has 8 splits under him, maybe he's more like in the in the highest league, in the major leagues or whatever. Maybe he's a little bit more of a story that's already been told, as opposed to a guy who's 22 but got to play 1 split and then got benched, or got to only play 2 splits or something like that. And I think that's something we're seeing over like in the LEC right now, where like Targamas, he made it up to the LEC, got sent down for a couple years, and now he's older. I don't know if he's like 21.
I think he's like 22,
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now he's really good. Like, he got his second chance and opportunity. And G2 definitely passed up on some 18, 19-year-old supports to go for the 22-year-old.
Yep.
But now he's a guy in his second or third LEC split that still has a ton more years ahead of him. Like, it doesn't make sense, the age arguments, when you understand how fast the esports move. Like, if you're 24, you have at least 2 years left, and 2 years right now in these esports is such a long time. Like,
it is.
Everything changes so fast. I also think it's definitely a big testament to the management, coaching staff, everything of CLG, how things are going. And I think that's another thing you have to consider with these players who have maybe not worked out on other teams or before. Something I've been very vocal about, the terrible coaching and mismanagement of a lot of different teams. That could absolutely be a factor in players not working out in other stints, in both the LEC and LCS. Some players are set up to fail and would be better off just under a different banner. So I think it's a very complex issue, and people definitely try to oversimplify it.
Yeah, and I mean, a quick example of this is we just literally saw this with the Golden State Warriors, who won the NBA Finals. Andrew Wiggins was written off as a failure. He had not lived up to his potential, and then he goes off with Golden State this year and just goes and wins the championship. So I mean, sometimes people just take longer to mature and longer to blossom, I guess would be probably the word that most traditional sports people would use. And they're late bloomers, but my goodness, I mean, there's a world where this team wins 3 more games and they're guaranteed a top 6 spot. So That's pretty cool. Moving on, 100 Thieves, man. Now you came out with a pretty strong message about the Dage, the Faker Dage. And I tend to agree. Abadage, to me right now, is one of the worst laning mid laners, but weirdly one of the best team fighting mid laners. And it's like, I don't know what to do with him. You know, I mean, it's almost like, dude, just like catch CS and do nothing else, and then 10 minutes in the game, we're just gonna rotate you out and put you in a side lane and let you get that free farm, and then we'll just, we'll put you into team fights here later on. Like, I almost feel like 100 Thieves would do better to just put him on like super scaly champions. You know, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Because this is a weird situation for them, because he's not bad. He's just really bad in lane and putting his team and himself really far behind, and then he has to try to play catch up.
Yeah, no, and I think I would even go more extreme than you are when, people are saying he's not bad. I would say maybe he is bad, potentially. I think it's hard to tell. The same argument I was just making about, hey, sometimes good players end up in bad positions. I think maybe somebody like Kenvi, even right now, you can kind of see that story. Like, however good or bad you think Kenvi is, I don't think anyone thinks he's going to be able to show his full potential on Immortals. I don't think that's like
especially
him getting a fair
that
shot.
full team.
Yeah, I think a similar thing is Abadage on 100 Thieves in reverse. It's like you are getting more opportunities and potentially looking better because you play on such a good team. And yeah, you talk about how he's a terrible laner, but he's a great team fighter, and he makes these big clutch plays in late in games and all that stuff. And this, I talk about it in the video that I made, that most people, if you play on other teams, if you play on FlyQuest or Dignitas or whatever, and you're down 70 CS at 20 minutes, you don't even get an opportunity to have a team fight that's winnable. You don't get an opportunity to catch somebody out with a big Ari charm or an Everfrost. The game's over because you are down 3,000 gold and you don't have FBI and Huhi bot lane. You don't have someday top lane. No, you just lost. And just like people can look bad on bad teams, even though they might be better, people can look good on good teams and probably be worse. And I think just so much of the story with Abadage is that he's not good enough to play for 100 Thieves. Not at least this current version of him. I think he needs to be on the hot seat 100% of, you need to step it up. And yeah, maybe they can put him on scaling picks or whatever, but then you run the risk of, is he going to be worse in lane? Maybe something weaker in lane. And yeah, you can totally, sacrifice and forfeit or whatever, but there's some good mid-jung duos in the LCS right now that are definitely going to take advantage of that, I think. And yeah, this guy's an import slot. This guy's a trash talker, and I love that. And I think he's interesting and entertaining, but he's had one good split, one mess split, and so far one bad split. I think if you look at the top 4 teams, not TSM, TL, C9, EG, 100 Thieves, is Abadage the worst of those 20 players?
Yeah, I want to say yes.
You can definitely make the case.
I mean, I don't even know who else would be that close, actually, now that you think about it. That's maybe Bwipo right now?
Definitely.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, in terms of actual talent, you put CLG in there, right?
No, I mean, if you want to throw CLG in there, you can.
Wait, who did you say? You said
I see as like international.
So you said TL, C9, 100 Thieves, and
EG.
And EG. Then yes, I would say he is potentially far and away the worst one.
Right,
and that's like, sad because he's not like. Right. What's really confusing to me is I watched him over in EU on some pretty piss poor teams, truly. Yeah. And he was so good. I just don't know where he's lost it, and that's what's hard for me because him coming in, like, he was the catalyst for them to win that championship. I mean, Damonte wasn't it, and I forget who that other person is that they replaced Damonte with, which was also a weird decision. But yeah, it's just like, because like right now I think in my mind I think of like Takui, right? Takui has been very good yet again, and I think to myself, imagine Takui on 100 Thieves with the rest of this team.
Yeah,
that team could pop. Yeah, they should be. And it's just like, the sad part is like right now Abadage is like almost a non-factor in most of their games. Now he almost single-handedly brought them back in that TSM game. I mean, he hit some huge charms.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah, but it's like, is that enough? Is that enough for you to hit clutch plays? Like, and maybe he's just going through a rut, and they're gonna figure it out. Because if they do, then 100 Thieves re-enters my conversation for top 3. Yeah. But if they don't, then he may be the sole reason that won them a championship that also is going to lose them one, because they just don't look good with him right now. He actually looked better during the playoffs, and maybe that's just where he shines. Maybe he's just not a regular season guy, and they're going to accept that and say, we don't care about regular season. We just want you to do well during playoffs. And if he pops off again during playoffs, it's like, all right, dude, like, you need to figure it out, because you are a liability during the regular season, but you are good during play. Because like even during spring playoffs, like he had a mess spring, but like spring playoffs, Abadage was a very different player. He almost solo carried one of the finals games even. So I was like, it's weird. You know, sometimes maybe people need a little pressure under them. I also don't think it helps that the guy, I think it's Jimian, who's under them on 100 Thieves Academy. That guy is not pushing Abadage out. Like, that's just not happening. Now, if they really wanted to make a mid split move, there are people they could get. You know, I mean, you could go out and try to get somebody like a Copy, or I don't know, even if you really were feeling frisky, a Takeover, I guess, since he has some LECS experience and played okay. Even that name just sounds terrible. I don't know if I can do that. But you know what I'm saying.
Almost like, a 0% chance of it happening during the split.
Unless they fall off a cliff. Unless they fall off a cliff. If they fall off a cliff, they will make it. I
think he's going to get an opportunity to do something again in the playoffs, and we'll see if that does or doesn't happen. I'm definitely on the skeptical side. And then I think a big game was the C9 against 100 Thieves game, where
that was huge.
You know, we're talking about Worlds implications. You could make a case that maybe TL's sitting on the Worlds bubble with how they look this weekend, but I think most people would say it's probably between C9 and 100 Thieves. And for 100 Thieves to drop that game when, you know, this is the two sides coming together of 100 Thieves. Oh, we've spent 3 splits together. We have all the synergy and friendship in the world. And C9 of, we just got off the plane from Korea. Like, what's up? I've never played support before. You lost C9 this week? C9, you got to think C9's only going to get better the rest of the split. Losing this game, to me, was not a big deal. Still a regular season game, but it was maybe symbolic.
And that brings me to a question for you, because this is my hot take. Now, I want to make sure real quick before I do this that I am right. Okay, this is just this is a hot take for right now. Okay. My hot take right now is 100 Thieves are the 7th best team in the LCS right now. That puts them behind Evil Geniuses, Team Liquid, CLG, Cloud9, TSM, and FlyQuest. That's my hot take for the day. Here's my argument for why. I truly believe that with the way TSM played against TL is going to be more towards their norm. And they probably should have won that 100 Thieves game. And I think the second time around, I think TSM will win that 100 Thieves game. I also believe that FlyQuest has had one of the best early games. They have had one of the best early games in the LCS. And Takui is a sleeper MVP right now, if he can help this team get to where they need to go. And if Abadage is still going to be the problem, then Takui pops off and I think can absolutely beat them. The rest of 100 Thieves, not as much of a problem, but I do think he is potentially that much of a liability. And I also do believe that on their off days, which happen more often than not lately, they could lose to those other teams. And I fully think that C9's better than them. So that's my hot take for the day, by the way. We still got to get to a couple other teams, so I'm sure we'll... do you have it? Well, I'll give you a second. Do you have any comments on that?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I think it's definitely a good hot take. I like the heat level. We're going from flaming hot Cheeto climbing up the ramp. No, I'm down for it. And like I said, I'm happy with how things are going, because my hot take from my year long or split long hot take or whatever is that 100 Thieves wasn't going to make Worlds, and so far,
You're looking
I
good.
said in spring split before the season started, I said 100 Thieves is overrated. Then they make finals. Maybe didn't work out the best for me. I'm just extending my timeline a little bit. I can definitely get on board. 7th is interesting to me. I think the FlyQuest argument is, I can see where you're coming from, but like if they played FlyQuest right now, I'm probably taking 100 Thieves. If I had to put money on it, I'm probably taking 100 Thieves. But I think 6th is like very reasonable.
I think
TSM
6th is very reasonable too.
Yeah, I think TSM looks good. Like, yes, they did lose Golden Guardians, and yes, TSM beat a TL that then didn't look good the next day too. So maybe TSM didn't look as, maybe their wins weren't as good as it really was. But it's not like 100 Thieves has looked better. I don't know.
Well, and I think that's a good time to talk about TSM. I think we have time to talk about TSM, C9, and then I think we'll just quickly run over the last couple teams. But for me, TSM looked pretty good this weekend and lost a game that was very clearly a draft gap. I mean, I tried to run through this on Talking TSM. I could barely get through the mindset behind. I tried so hard to be like, okay, well, maybe the Gnar hits them up and then the Yasuo ults, and then you're able to layer the Seraphine ult over top of it while the Volibear's running in from the Karma, Empower W. And I'm just like, bro, this is ridiculous. Like, I shouldn't have to be like, I mean, they intentionally picked not only losing lanes, but they were going to get outscaled no matter what. I mean, it was a horrible draft. The fact that TSM was even able to stay in it for 20 minutes is shocking. It was just like, I don't know why they do this, but they do play to the level of competition. They do. I mean, they played TL. I think you and I would agree. I picked them to lose to TL even. I was like, I think it'll be closer than people think. But they were like, I mean, it was solid. Like from minute 4 till minute, I think it was like 28 or whatever. TSM had a very clear control of the game. And Spica, the thing I'm most worried about with him right now, though, is when he's not on Viego, he doesn't look as good. Viego gives him that really big pop-off opportunity, and that's what he loves. But I want to see if Viego continues to be a ban against him. I think actually Bel'Veth being added into the champion pool is going to help him immensely, because they're going to basically have to pick. Do you give him Bel'Veth, Wukong, or Viego? And none of those are 3 champions that I would ever want to give Spica right now. So
Not too worried about that, because I think there should be enough picks. I think like even Xin Zhao's like not a bad pick right now. Xin Zhao's definitely playable. That's why I'm a little confused why they went to the Volibear. Volibear's good right now, but
he's super strong.
I believe he played Volibear in this game.
Well, Volibear is 0-6 by the way in the LCS.
Yeah, they're kind of playing him everywhere though. I don't know how good or bad he actually is. I see him.
No, that's in the jungle. That's only in the jungle. He's 0-6 right now.
Yeah. So yeah, that would hurt the argument even more of like if I'm the baseline team, maybe I'm not picking Volibear right now because he's bad. But if I'm TSM with how Spica's been playing, I'm not putting him on Volibear.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't get that. And yeah, the draft stuff, it's like, was it just a one-off bad draft? Is the coaching staff not good? Is champ pool issues for somebody? Who's the voice for this team? Why did this happen? Is it going to continue to happen? Hopefully not. But there's only been 5 games. It's it's got to be at least a thought in your head. It's not like we've seen so many unbelievable drafts and then one bad draft. Like, this was a disgusting draft against Golden Guardians. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's the same thing of we'll have to see if it's a trend or if it's a one-off. But yeah, Spica Maple looks just crazy.
Really
I
good.
mean, I'm loving what I see. It makes the whole Kaido situation last split even more ridiculous. Like, just really with how everything played out.
Yeah.
But it is good to see. Better late than never. I'm glad things are working out. They end up getting Maple kind of, from what I've heard, for a steal of a deal coming off his LPL situation and stuff.
And they have him for 2 years after this too, which is a pretty good sign for TSM fans because we've talked about this. I don't know where else Spica goes. You have said, I think it was in one of your recent videos, you talked about your conversation with Dominic and how, he had said, to you, and he had said it to me, I can now say this like off the air as well, that they wanted to keep Spica. So to me, I think they're going to really try. I think they might even overpay to keep him, especially with the way he's playing right now. And I think with Maple, he might be like, you know what? Maybe this team ain't that bad because they look really good. You've got a young guy in Seoul who's not looked great, but if you're really not feeling Hooney next year, then you can go with him. And I think Tactical's positioning errors will hopefully start to kind of mend themselves. And I think Mia looked pretty good this weekend, honestly, in both games. There's a lot to like about this team right now. And I think, honestly, most teams that are going to run into them are going to be not scared, but maybe a bit intimidated in terms of just like, maybe this team's a lot better than we thought.
I think TSM's an extreme like live underdog in any game. I think they're gonna struggle with consistency issues in a lot of ways because I still don't know. Yeah, Mia had a good game. How good is he? We'll have to wait and see. I think he's been maybe solid so far with one great game. What's the baseline for him going to be? Spica and Maple has been unbelievable. Top 2, top 3 mid-young duo in the LCS. I mean, it's been really, really impressive.
Possible.
As far as Spica coming back, my biggest concern, people talking about, they're going to, empty the bag on him or whatever. They're going to drop something crazy. Like, is that where TSM's at right now as an organization in the LCS? I think that is a big concern. There's a lot of things lining up for it. Like, yeah, Soul speaking Mandarin. He's exciting. He's coming up. Spica and Tactical are friends. But Tactical's going to have to play well. Also,
he has to be better.
Friends. But yeah, Maple is a great signing for so many ways. And it could potentially be, the thing that holds on to this TSM future. But I already dropped the video, and that was going to be my hot take for this week, too, that I had to bring into it. That in my mind, after this weekend, TL may have become the leader in the clubhouse for Spica for next season. I definitely think there was some stuff that TSM has done to increase their chances of keeping Spica, and I think, before the split, maybe people said, no way he comes back. Now there's a little bit of a storyline of how Spica could maybe return, but then they lose to Golden Guardians, and then you're like, okay, hey, maybe not. And there's still a lot of split left to go. We would have never guessed how crazy Spring Split was going to be for TSM. I'm not ready to say, hey, all the drama's past them. They're in the clear now. They're just going to be a good team.
I hope so.
We'll see. Who knows? But for Team Liquid, they're a team that's still struggling with consistency issues. They have so many talented players. They have, they're really, really good. Maybe you can blame it on the bot lane. Maybe you can blame it on Blippa or whoever. But Spica is a resident jungler. He is, we're talking about the age thing. He's younger than Santorin. He's less experienced than Santorin. He has the relationship with Bjergsen. TL has the money as to where TSM, do they want to spend the money? I don't know. It seems like so many things are lining up. And again, getting to see them play head-to-head and seeing Spica outplay Santorin, if that doesn't tell TL, like, hey, this guy, maybe he's an upgrade. Maybe this can be a way, we fix our team. And I think if TL ends up faltering or whatever, there's going to be a lot of changes. So I think anything's going to be a possibility. I don't think any players on TL are going to be safe.
Except for Pride, Bjergsen, and Core JJ. Those are the only ones I think that could be safe.
Yeah, and Core JJ, who even knows what he's going to do? I don't know why he hasn't signed his contract extension or whatever. I know some people are like, maybe he's going to retire. Maybe he's going to leave. Like, who knows? But yeah, I think after this weekend, Team Liquid has become the leader in the clubhouse for Spica in 2023.
Well, we're going to find out. I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't feel like that takes very hot, my guy.
It depends who you ask.
But that's okay. I'm excited to see a lot of people tell me I'm an idiot. So I love that part of this. There's one other team we have to get to. We got a few minutes to dote on them. Dude, Cloud9 with Sven Berserker. It's just a different team, man. I mean, it's clearly a different team. And as a fan of any other team, I am mortified to have to play them for the rest of this split because they didn't even look nearly as good as they will. and they still were, I think, the only LCS team to have a 2-0 this weekend. So
I know that.
I believe that is the case. I'd have to check again.
Yeah, you're thinking about all the top teams for sure dropped at least one game.
Yep, and Immortals and Dignitas and FlyQuest and Golden Guardians did not. So yes, they are the only team that went 2-0 this weekend, and for good reason. They are. Dude, Blabber, it looks incredible. I mean, he is like. You talk about Spica coming back, bro. Blabber is like, hey, by the way, I've won multiple MVPs, a championship, and I've actually performed pretty well internationally. You remember me? Yeah, there's an argument already in my mind to be made that he might be the best NA player ever. Yeah, at such a young age where he's going to probably play for another 5, potentially 10 years. Dude, this guy is nuts. I love watching him play. Even, I know the TSM C9 crap, I don't care. Like, dude, he is awesome. And Fudge looks like the worst player on his team. And that's saying a lot. Thank God, man. This team looks good.
Yeah, and like you said, you still think they can be so much better, and that's what I think is the most exciting. Like, yeah, I'm happy they beat 100 Thieves. I have obviously been rooting for Cloud9. I want to see them do well. I think they're a fun team. I don't think 100 Thieves is that fun of a team, and like I said, I see that as the third place race. So I'm glad C9 kind of pulled ahead there. But I did not watch this weekend and say, oh damn, Berserker was crazy, or oh damn, Sven looked really comfortable as a support or anything like that. I think. Like, from all the Berserker that I've seen, this was some of the most underwhelming Berserker that I've seen so far. And for good reason. He's gone through a lot of stress, and I can't even imagine how crazy this situation's been the last couple of weeks. And then jet lag and time zones and practice and all that stuff. I am very, very confident he's going to continue to get better. And I still think, in so many ways, he is, maybe the most exciting player going in the future of the LCS.
Easily.
And Sven... He wasn't bad, but he wasn't like good. Maybe he'll never be good.
They just need him to be average.
Will be.
They just need him to be average.
Yeah. They just need him to be better than like Winsome or whatever. Winsome. This team was still like the first or second best team through most of the spring split. I don't know. I think Jensen, Blabber, and Fudge at their best are top 2 or 3 in their position. At their absolute best, are all 1 at their position. They have number 1 potential. I don't think Sven and Berserker were that good. They still went 2-0. I think this weekend went about as good as you could hope if you're a C9 fan.
Yeah, and I want to check real quick to see who they play this coming weekend. They will get... That's strange. They will get, looks like CLG.
Yeah, CLG and FlyQuest.
So, like, there's a challenge there. There certainly is a challenge there. And... this will maybe potentially prove my hot take to be very right. If they lose to FlyQuest after beating 100 Thieves, what can you say there? But in all seriousness, like this is a huge opportunity for them to just come knock. Like I will say this right now: if they go out and they go 2-0 this weekend, they are second on my power rankings, regardless of their record. I understand that they will have gotten to 4 and 3 at that point, but like. Bro, this team, like, there's a lot to be excited about. Jensen looks pretty much exactly like I remember Jensen. Kind of boring, but gets the job done, Yeah. And Blabber and Fudge bring the spice along with Berserker, and Sven learns this role more, and you're just like, oh, man, maybe C9 figured something out, something real special, too, because... The only player I could see them actually replacing if this whole thing goes well is Jensen. And that's purely based on the fact that he is nearing that 30 marker where I think a lot of mid laners probably won't get to. Yeah. That's not to say he can't. It's just saying I'd be surprised. I think he'd be the first player, at least in LCS history, to truly be 30 and actually be successful in the mid lane. So... He seems to have the drive to want to play, so all props to him if he can figure it out. But this could be Can you imagine the LCS with a team like this, with a team like Evil Geniuses, and maybe we find a third team that like the future looks insanely bright, and like we have maybe 10 to 15 players that can actually go toe-to-toe with a lot of these Worlds teams. I mean, you look at this C9 roster right now, man, and I'm not trying to like overhype them, but I do genuinely believe that them along with C9, they could battle the big boys. I don't know if they're always going to win, but those games are never going to feel like stomps. I can tell you that much. Like they're going to get after them, and I'm happy for NA. I'm sad for my boys at TSM, but this C9 team, I mean, in my opinion, they're just head and shoulders above most everybody else already, and we only saw a little bit of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's it just, we keep coming back to this thing of like, oh, it's crazy what a team looks like when you get good players at every position. Like that has been, you're thinking about like TSM, that's been my biggest criticism of them over the past couple of years. It's like they've gotten good players, and they've made attempts at like getting a Sven and Mithy, or getting all these random good players and teaming them all together, but they've always cheaped out on like one position. You always have an Acadian or a Grig or Mike Young randomly thrown into the team or something like that. It's like there's a time for taking chance on young players and going for a young prospect, and I think it was even cool what TSM did with Mike Young and stuff in some ways. But at some points, you got to get 5 great players on your team and see what happens. And Cloud9 has 5 great players on their team. Evil Geniuses, yes, they took the chance on JoJo, but like JoJo was looking really, really good. And yeah, sometimes you hit those, sometimes you don't. EG's at a point where they have 5 great players on their team. It shouldn't be a shock that these players are looking good. And I like that teams are actually just putting together full rosters. C9 spending some money, EG throwing some money around on guys like Impact and Vulcan and stuff like that. And I'm glad it's paying off for them.
And it's going to be what continues to make the LCS exciting. We'll give them 2 minutes here. Immortals and Dignitas are clearly the worst 2 teams in the LCS. I don't think there's a whole lot of an argument there. I think Licorice actually might have had the most underrated weekend. He looked really good in both games. And it reminded me of why I was very confident that he's actually one of the best laning top laners in the LCS, because he is. If he's not getting much jungle interference, that man can still roll over everybody. I think you put him on a good team. Like, I think he could be a replacement for Impact if Impact has to leave. And that man could truly look like an Alfari level LCS player. Not Alfari and the Vitality team that looks like crap, but Vitality, when he was here with TL.
Maybe not some of the off the riffs. So.
Yeah. But he looks great. I think Golden Guardians are fine. I think that they will make playoffs, and I think they will be potential threat if you sleep on them, but they're all right. And I actually think FlyQuest is still kind of underrated. Jose Dioto's actually looked okay too. I think he and Takui are fine. I think if they're smart and they're seeing the trends, I say you put back in Kumo and just run it and see what happens at this point. Not that Philip's been bad, but it's like you want consistency. And Johnson and Afromu look pretty good, Takui looks really good. Jose Dioto looks kind of like what you wanted when you got him. Like, Philip's not been bad, but this team's not winning their team fights, and you kind of need your guy who's playing weak side to come in and make team fight plays, and he's not doing that yet. So I really like some of these other teams. I'm really enjoying the LCS right now. I mean, Dignitas and Immortals look bad, even though I will say Lost has looked really good on Immortals too. So not just that play, but he's been trying to almost solo carry them. If PoE keeps if he keeps trolling builds and stuff, I don't know how much longer he's going to make it, because he's much better than this. He just seemingly is kind of in I don't care mode, which is kind of weird. So
yeah, he enjoys his money. We know that.
It seems like that might be the case. So, which is sad, because I do enjoy him. I've interviewed him multiple times, and he's a super nice dude.
Seems like a nice, cool guy. He's got his green card now. I don't know.
it's interesting. Which of these? So let's play a quick game here. Since we're going over the time, anyways. Of these 4 teams, which one do you actually? Well, we'll do 3 teams: Golden Guardians, Immortals, and Dignitas. Which one do you think could actually figure it out and go for like a mid-tier playoff spot?
I still think that of those 3, Golden Guardians is the most interesting to me, just based off of Ablaze and Licorice and how they can look. I still don't love the bot lane. I still think Stixxay is very random and weird. Ole, I think, was maybe a little bit overrated last split. Pride Stalker, one of the weirdest offseason moves in a while.
And yet he's
to me,
actually looked
especially as
okay
an
at
import.
times. That's what's weird about him.
Yeah,
He looks okay at times.
Like, is he better than like other people would? I don't know. He's okay, but I think if a Blaze and Licorice can get hot, having strong solo lanes is. If you got strong solo lanes, you're gonna be better than at least a couple teams. You know, you can probably win some games. And yeah, they're both guys who can pop off and can carry a game. You know, I'm thinking like a Blaze Olive, like the triple kill on Rise he had last split against TSM, having those moments. Licorice this past weekend with some Fiora play, like that's hard to stop even for some middle to upper tier teams. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough for any of those three teams to do anything consistently, I think. But for one weekend, maybe a couple weekends, I could see GGS probably the most likely.
Yeah, I'm still I would say them, but I don't want to copy you. So the team that just looks completely lost to me is Dig. So I'm gonna go with Immortals. I still think there's a world where Kenvi starts to kind of find his form. Power of Evil remembers how good he was even just literally last year. I mean, he was one game away from going to Worlds last year. And so was Lost, his current teammate, who's looked like he is almost trying to 1v9. I think Ignar's still a little rusty. I think he can come back. I don't think Revenge is going to play as bad as he did this weekend on a regular basis. Maybe. I don't think he's great, but I've seen the light in terms of him being at least an LCS starter. So, which says a lot for how I had initially seen him. So, yeah, I'm going to say Immortals just because I think things can turn around quickly, and I think if Lost is going to continue to be this aggressive and the rest of the team can actually follow up on some of these plays with him, then, I mean, not that Lost is good enough to truly 1v9 good teams, but to be able to beat teams that are having their off day or be able to beat teams that are just bad, they can win enough games to, I think, surprise some people. So, yeah, 1 of 4 is not great. They're probably at the bottom of my power rankings right now, but there's still a world where they could win some of these games. So, yeah, that's my thing. So, all right, we're getting ready to sign off here. We've got to do our punishment though. So you guys already heard. I'm going to recap you real quick. My hot take was that 100 Thieves currently are the 7th best team in the LCS. Jerm, your hot take was that Speaker would go to TL. We want you guys to decide which one of those takes are worse. The punishment, would you like to let the people know? Because this one was your idea, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so this week the punishment is going to be, we're going to be dropping some selfies on Twitter. Everybody loves a good Twitter selfie. I think they're funny to post seriously or silly or weirdly, which I do both of from time to time, and it's usually just funny. We're going selfies. We're going Snapchat filters. If Rob ends up losing, we're going with a shave down, a bald filter from him, but not like, oh, look at me in the bald Snapchat filter. It's like, hey guys, here's just a bald selfie right on your timeline. Baby. You know, just shaved my head. What's up? What do you guys think? How do I look? And then for me, if I lose, I'm going Grand Theft Auto haircut style. I'm going to the barber, and they're throwing some hair on. And I'm going to try and find, the most ridiculous, that doesn't look too out of place, Snapchat filter, and I'll send out a selfie as well, showing you guys what what they hooked me up with at the barber shop.
I almost want to do these anyways because I think they're going to be so fun.
it's literally, it's probably something I'm gonna do at some point anyway. But I do think they do well, so I think it's also good for the show to get that stuff out there. And I think it's funny. And it's not like it's not embarrassing. Even when I choose to do it, I'm like, I'm thinking about it first.
See, and I'm not much of a picture guy. I never really have been. So This is gonna suck for me. I'm not looking forward to it because all my friends are gonna be like, "Yo, did you shave your head?"
Yeah, that's fine. If you get some DMs, that's funny. That adds to it.
God, it's gonna be great. Yeah, with that, as a reminder, let us know what you're thinking of the show down in the comment section below. Also, let us know what your thoughts are on our takes, even if they're not the ones that we picked to be hot takes. I think Jerm and I still give you guys plenty of nice ammo to use against us. So, always feel free to comment on that. I didn't say this in the first week's show, and we mentioned it a little bit in the last week's show. These shows will be alternating, by the way, to be clear. So this one will be on the Game House channel. Next week's will be on Jerm's channel. You know, flippy floppy. It's pretty obvious. So if you want to catch last week's episode and you didn't get it, head on over to Jerm's channel. I already talked it up when I was, doing my Yuumi Jungle. Hopefully a couple of those people will be watching this one here. And with that, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all that jazz. Go over do the same thing on Jerm's channel so that you guys don't miss any of these awesome episodes and you don't miss any great punishments or just terrible takes. I'm Rob. He's Jerm. We'll catch y'all next week.
Peace.